demon actually is, I think the Greek is like daemon, and it literally just means evil spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use those interchangeable.
Yeah.
Evil spirit, demon, evil spirit, demon, evil
Right.
spirit, demon. Imagine the demonic's like an algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that you give into that spirit of lust,
Right.
the more it's going to come up on your feed, quote unquote.
I grew up in an age where everything was like a Jezebel spirit.
Oh, bro.
It's
Yeah.
like, oh, she's wearing a skirt.
Jezebel spirit.
And you're like, dude, okay. I get it.
Burn the scrolls. Burn, like for me,
Yeah.
for a season, it was get rid of the CDs. Well, we live counterculturally. It is tiring. We can just be Christians in the church and in our homes. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's in the public square.
All right, here we go.
Here we go.
Just two of us.
Just us two now.
Just back to two of us.
You know what's funny about the last one is that the way it was set up, it made Rue look little, like we were two giants, and there was like little Ruslan in the back.
We did it to humble him. Lord knows, Ruslan's, all of his Instagram and YouTube fame, he needed to be in the background.
He needs to be in the background a little.
Prophetic.
Well, it makes us feel better about ourselves over here. Oh my gosh!
But that was
amazing.
cool. Our first ever one. It was awesome.
It was cool, yeah.
Sweet response. I think that we got some new followers, some new viewers and listeners.
Yeah.
And again, just for those who are new, just so you guys know, this is If I Had More Time, a weekly podcast show that we do here at Rhythm Church, where really the heart of it is a speaker, the teacher. Again, Ruslan was our first as a communicator here on our weekend services. We have 35, 40 minutes. This weekend was longer.
That was my fault. Oh my gosh.
A limited time to be able to teach
a limited
these
time
messages. And so this podcast is created, the show is created for us to be able to kind of dive deeper in certain topics from the message, from the passages, or just kind of where conversation leads. And so,
exactly.
if you're new with us, we're glad that you're watching. And
so it's relevant if you've heard the message or not.
Yes.
It helps if you've heard the message for sure. But we do go off on different tangents and talking everything from what's happening modern day to the message, how it applies.
Absolutely.
And all the different other nuances and context that you don't necessarily get or can't get. And this is a perfect example of this one because, my gosh, talking about deliverance and the demonic and all of that. And, everyone has their opinions and their thoughts. And then there's like points of clarity. And I was like, man, to try to cover it all in 1 week was actually crazy.
Yeah.
And and to I really did. I went 10 minutes over, I think, in every service with it.
Yeah.
But oh well. Oh man. So 2 points of clarity before we jump in. One would be, and then we will talk about where demons, evil spirits, possibly came from.
Yeah.
I did really enjoy going into why the Bible doesn't go into it too much.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was for me, it was good because it's to be able to teach that because, again, there is sometimes too much of a fascination with it.
Sure.
But first point of clarity, I'd say this. One is on Thursday night, I used, and this is for all the ladies that were extremely upset with me. I used an illustration just off the top of my head. Off my memory, which isn't always good to do, communicator learning thing here, where we talked about the movie The Notebook. And I talked about how, how we can glorify sin and all that stuff. And I talked about how that movie, the woman leaves her husband, it was actually her fiance, I guess, to cheat, still cheating with Ryan Reynolds, and it was this romantic thing, and they romanticized it, and I thought they were married, so I was like, the movie's about adultery, and then I had so many women come up afterwards and be like, "Correction, you might be leaving this church. You're teaching heresy." I was like, "What? No, it wasn't that extreme." But they, so yes, I apologize.
You use the illustration for when you teach about idols.
That's true. We can see that this is an idol in your life. And so we're going to pray deliverance right now. No, so again, my apologies. They were just, the couple was just engaged, so they weren't necessarily covenanted before God. It was just a major promise made that was broken for their own personal satisfaction and gain. So yeah, I guess it's not really the same as adultery, but pretty darn close. And then secondly, point of clarity would be in the. So I made this statement because the statement I was making is actually true, and that you don't see deliverance as far as casting out of demons in the Old Testament. Mm-hmm. There's no priest, prophet, king, anything that does that. But deliverance is a major theme in the Old Testament, as far as the Israelites being delivered out of the oppression and slavery of Egypt. Right. There's constantly, and we're ultimately moving towards the ultimate deliverance of sin, which Jesus brings. So it's, and it really is from the standpoint of God is the only one that delivers.
Yeah.
And he uses Moses to do so, but it's not a delivering of the demonic.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
So just from a semantic standpoint of deliverance or casting it, whatever you want to call it, exorcism. Yeah. No, the Old Testament is about deliverance. We're constantly being delivered from oppression, or the Lord allows them to be taken captive by these other empires, and then delivers them. So point of clarity on those two things.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then ultimately we get into you don't see a lot of, you see some, there's a mention, of course, of the spiritual realm throughout, and then, of evil spirits, the demonic forces, all of that. And this is where, again, for this whole topic, this whole subject, it gets very interesting because it really is about words. So demon actually is, I think the Greek is daemon or something, and it literally just means evil spirit. Mm-hmm. So you can use those interchangeable. Yeah. Evil spirit, demon, evil spirit, demon, evil spirit, demon. Deliverance or exorcism, it's just the casting out of. So, to exorcise a demon is to cast them out of the person that they've inhabited or the person they're oppressing. Deliverance, it's same thing, just means to be delivered from it. Right. So it's all the little, and especially for people that love this topic. So there's you see that there's kind of the categories of people that love it, right? And they're no, right. That's a tier 2 demon, which is probably a Pokemon thing or something.
Ranking demons.
Demons. Yeah. But there is file and rank. Yeah. We learned that from Ephesians 6. Yeah. But and there is actually, we probably won't get into that later. But anyway, so it's still categories of people. And then there's some people that are yeah, I guess it's out there. Right. And they just don't care. And there's some people nah, that's just scary movie stuff. And you're well, you should probably read your Bible. So you have all of those, kind of intermixed of, I'm sure some sat there this weekend bored. Okay. Can we get on to something? Yeah. And I'm sure some sat there wow, I've never heard of that before. And others probably sat there and critiqued the crud out of it of well, hold on a second here. I read in, so-and-so's book of, they shall deliver them all, or whatever. You're okay. Well, so any kind of questions you guys got would be great. Yeah. Send them our way. We'll do our best to answer. But that's the thing, is that there's not a lot about this.
Totally.
Even to the point of where did they come from? Mm-hmm. There's speculation on that.
Totally.
We have biblically, it's an Isaiah and an Ezekiel. Both of them talk about basically Lucifer and his fall from heaven. Right. And they use very, I don't want to say poetic, what's the word, illustrative, Satan fell like lightning, Jesus talks about. Right. That he took a third of the stars with him, but it's the angels, and so you have that. Yes, scripturally we have Isaiah and Ezekiel that both talk about how there was the most beautiful angel in essence, right, who falls from heaven and convinces a third of the angels to go with him. They get cast out of heaven and basically fall to earth. Now from there, so these angels, are they angels, fallen angels, or are they now evil spirits? And all that stuff is kind of unclear.
Sure.
And it's really in that, like I talked about, in that intertestamental period where people really start to focus on, because this is what I said I was going to talk about in the message. I said I'll talk about this if we had more time. There's like, now you have to lean on extra biblical stuff that is really written in that intertestamental period of these are demons.
Yeah.
This is demonology. This is the spiritual realm. And you're relying on like apocryphal books to kind of help explain, which isn't bad. I mean, like, you mean apocryphal books doesn't mean that it's like you throw it all out. Just like history books in schools, like, because there's something whack in there doesn't mean that you don't take the rest of it. Like, well, the Revolutionary War happened, and you're like, oh, did it though?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, so then you have, I think it's in Enoch, the book of Enoch, which again is not in your Bible.
Right.
It's not in your Bible for a reason, but it takes where something that is in Bible that is kind of confusing, and it's in Genesis, I believe. I think I might have the reference. I think it's like Genesis 5 or 6, where it talks about how basically, it's in Genesis 6, where you have these fallen spirits that came to earth and really liked human women.
Right.
And so they got with them. They had relations with them, and from them had children called Nephilim, which were giants.
Right.
And you see throughout the Old Testament, like little spots of giants. Like Goliath was a giant. Yeah. So the possibility of him being the offspring or the lineage of the Nephilim. So the Nephilim, you always say
when they went to when the Israelites scouted the land. When they send the scouts to go into what would end up being
the promised land.
Yeah. They say there's giants in the land.
There's giants in that land.
Yeah.
So I mean, you see this, but you also see, though, in the flood, they get knocked out. So did they kind of reintroduce? We don't know,
right?
Because this is pre-flood. This is pre-Noah, and so it says that they came, they had relations with women, had these Nephilim, and so then the Nephilim, when they died, there's nowhere for their spirit to go. Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
So this is all extra biblical. But so then these are what became these very like agitated demonic spirits that because they were, of course, from fallen angels, and that's when all of a sudden they're kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
Knocked out with the flood, and then just roaming.
Right.
And the interesting thing is that if you go across, so here's kind of like maybe an apologetic thing. I'm not Mr. Apologetics at all. But what we see across, like there are common themes that you see in different cultures across the world. You often see that there's an afterlife of some sort, right? And that's usually, I think that's because, of course, God placed eternity in man's heart. So we all have this idea that like there's something beyond this.
Right.
There's something beyond this. Where and then you have most cultures have a flood narrative.
Yeah, right.
And so there's that thought of, well, every culture has a flood narrative. I'm like, yeah, because there was a flood.
Right,
The Bible writes about it.
People are trying to explain it.
Yeah, people are trying to explain it. It doesn't mean that the Bible stole it. Well, everyone else had a flood. Let's make a flood in our story too. And you do see in most other things this good and evil kind of battle with the thought of the spiritual realm and evil spirits, and they have good spirits.
Right.
For instance, in Asian countries, there's the idea of yin and yang, the good and the bad. You have there's like demon dragons, you know, and all of that stuff. I mean, you just watch Ninjago, bro.
Trust me, my boys do.
I know. So I threw that out there. You know, like for any parents out there of like 5 to 6 year old boys, you're definitely watching Ninjago now.
Yeah.
But like, you know, like they have those like dragons and the things.
Right.
Like that's always been kind of a part of everything, because I don't think it comes from a place of all these different cultures had fairy tales. And no, I think it's because it was real.
Right.
And they really experienced these things.
Totally.
And so, so that's where we kind of roll into where like the possibility of where it all came from. And, but the difference being for us is that we have Yahweh, you know, we serve the one true God. And, from that, we have God has the power over all. God the Father has the power over all. Jesus the Son, of course, destroyed them when he destroyed sin. Like I said in Colossians, made a mockery of him. And because he's given us his Holy Spirit, the power to basically be like Jesus here on this earth. Everything from miracle signs and wonders to grace, morality, like living.
Yeah.
But also now with that, you do see within Scripture, again from Ephesians 6, there is some rank and order, and you see it within like Mark chapter 9, when the apostles, the disciples, the basically it was because Peter, James, and John were with Jesus, so the 9 couldn't cast out the demon out of the boy, and they go, well, why couldn't we? And Jesus goes, well, this kind of only comes out by prayer.
Yeah.
And then later they add, like in later manuscripts, adds fasting. And that was kind of more from the possibility of it being like copied back by a real ascetic, like hardcore, like group of monks or something like that. But that really believed in fasting. But that's the thing of, well, he's saying this kind of only comes out by prayer. Jesus didn't pray the demon out, but it was that idea of, I think it was like that intimacy, that connection where that power really comes from.
Right.
Because even now going back to and retracing it all back now to Acts 19, Jesus we know, Paul we've heard of. Paul made a name for himself in the spiritual realm.
Yeah, right.
But who are you?
Who are you?
And so, like, they're nothing to fear, but I do think there is that spot of, but we also need to be pretty spiritually fit if we're going to start jumping into that and picking fights.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder, like, I wonder, kind of to your point earlier of, you know, kind of two different people, generally two people who are like, can be bored with the message or, you know, really excited by that message. I think like, you know, to that point, I think people can walk out of that message from this weekend. I think a few different maybe emotions, but I think probably, you know, there's people out there that walk out of there with like a, like a fear, maybe, and maybe again, similar. If you have a lot of new believers at that rhythm,
we do,
and people who are new to their faith are coming back to their faith. So hearing that message, you know, could, like there's, you know, there's, if you have some fear about that, or further curiosity, right?
Yep.
I haven't really heard that much about this, you know, where, you know, I know you said not to get fascinated by it, but now I'm fascinated.
Exactly. I just got all the books.
Where do I learn? You know, I think maybe even just speaking to, you know, people who are, again, maybe newer to their faith, and this is a subject that they're not super familiar with. I mean, what are some kind of healthy, I know you just talked a little bit about, you know, becoming spiritually fit, and whatnot, but what are some healthy kind of responses or
that's a good question.
Disciplines to put in your life after hearing a message like that? Like, what do you think the response should be coming out of that message?
That's great, George. I think a great response is to, so one, like I said, not to get too fascinated with it. I think really focusing on the supremacy of Jesus is huge. But I think with any topic spiritually that we come across that fascinates us, I think it's good to read books. That's fine. Extra, like, you know, so-and-so wrote a book on it. But there's always a caution there even. I like to say, and I do this with different communicators, I do this with different books, I eat the meat and spit out the bones. And I'm not saying like I'm the supreme authority on anything, but like I'll read things that'll challenge me, and then I'll go study scriptures. What Paul talks about earlier, and I think it's like Acts 14 or something, where the Bereans were more noble than the Thessalonians because they took what Paul said and they went and studied the scriptures to see if it was true.
Right. I'm
all down for that. Like,
right.
Let's study the scriptures and let's see what's true. So even if you're reading a book, one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they take a book that's not the Bible and they make it Bible.
Right.
Or they take the commentary in their Bible, if you have a Bible with commentary,
right.
and they make it Bible.
Yeah.
I've had people come and say, no, see right here. And I'm like, and that's a commentary.
Right.
Written by someone who is a cessationist and doesn't believe in miracles any longer.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
nah. You know, like, they're going to read the scriptures with a total different bias. So I think, get the book. And whenever you go like, it's like, go back.
Mm-hmm.
I remember in college reading books where I'm like, and I had to go read the dictionary to figure out what that word meant.
Yeah, totally.
But I just didn't breeze over it, right? I was like, okay, that's what the word means. So it's the same thing, I think, with that type of stuff is, okay, if you are getting out there or listening to different stuff, like I've listened to different people speak on, demons and all of it. And I go back and I read and I say, okay, well, all right. And Enoch is not a book of the Bible.
Right.
So you take it with it's possible.
Yeah.
Sounds like it makes sense.
Totally.
But I'm not going to hang my hat on that forever.
Mm-hmm.
So doing as much like personal study as you can, asking people that are further along than you to kind of clarify some things is huge. And then, always being humble to be like, for instance, I addressed the Old Testament is about deliverance because somebody came up to me afterwards and said, I don't want anyone to be confused that there isn't deliverance in the Old Testament. I'm like, oh, okay. I get it. Semantics, words, deliverance. Let me clarify that. Because we are being delivered from evil, you know, constantly.
Right.
So in any topic like that, and I think it's really easy for us to get overly focused on any spiritual thing, really.
Sure.
And especially for seasons, it's pretty wild when you look at stuff like this. So either people become more aware of it in different seasons and times. And there's always pockets. It's not like deliverance ministry stopped ever, right? 20 some years ago or 20 years ago, the church is a part of, we saw it all the time.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure it was happening in different areas, but I just it kind of seemed like it chilled out, and at least in a lot of the people that I ran with. Yeah. If that makes sense.
For sure.
We didn't really see it a lot. Now we're kind of starting to see a little bit more of it bubble up. And I don't know if it's just because many of us are becoming more aware of it again, or
something that's happening in our region,
something that's happening in a region or nation, whatever that might be. I forgot where I was going with that. But anyways, that is, we don't want to get, I was going to say this. People become more aware of it and sometimes make a bigger deal of it. Like when the movie Paranormal Activity came out, every church in America is getting phone calls of I've got demons in my house. Hey, I need you guys to come anoint my house with oil and cast out the demons.
Right.
Which either A, was they were just got scared of a movie, or B, it was maybe they're aware of it now.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Because something fictional. Fictional? Right?
Fictitious,
Fictitious. Made them whoa.
Right. Totally. Yeah, I think I like to think of it, and this is really simplistic, and maybe just because I'm teaching to young adults a lot, and I just did this with Romans 14. But especially with topics like these that are kind of a little bit more heady and have a lot of nuance to them, is just look at it okay, well, what's a red light, green light here, and then what's yellow, and it's I think what you laid out really well is I think the red light, green light here is there is a spiritual realm, that is not up for interpretation. Scripture is really clear. There is a spiritual realm. We as believers need to be on guard, right? Ephesians 6, right? And there is a way that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual and principalities, right? And so there is a role for us as believers, and that's to stand, be firm. And Ephesians 6 lays out how to do that, right? It lays that out clearly. So I think those are red light, green light. It's real. We have a role. Now, I think the yellow is, okay, well, how does that play out for each person? As far as like, what is that, you on the street casting out demons? Is that and those are yellow things. And I think that as believers, we have to, again, we just went over this in Romans 14 and adults, but I think we hold the yellow things much differently than we hold those red and green light things. The red is like, if a believer comes up and goes, I don't think there is a spiritual realm. I'm going, that is really just you need to read your Bible again.
It's wrong. Right. Yeah.
Read your Bible again.
Yeah.
Now, how that looks and plays out in your life. If you feel like you've been called to, maybe a deliverance ministry type of event or this, that, and the other. Okay, you know what? Hey, that's the yellow issue, and let's not cast the baby out the bathwater.
Right. Yeah.
And create more disunity and divisiveness within the church over what's a yellow light thing. And I think that's where and I think we have seen I've seen that where it's like people will believe, well, boy, man, you don't have deliverance ministry at your church. They're not a real church.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay. Well, I think we're going a little far with that. But I do think, again, what I think was a good reminder this weekend that you hit on really well is that there is a spiritual realm. There is a demonic agenda.
Yeah.
And I thought you did a really good job practically laying out what that demonic agenda, how to identify what a demonic agenda is, right?
Thanks,
in a like really practical and clear way. But it's real. There's a demonic agenda, and for us as believers, there's a role. And I think again, I think a good reminder for us is that the battle's already won.
Right.
Jesus has already won
sure,
the battle.
Yep.
We are in a period where maybe the demons don't know it yet, but the battle is decided. But we still, as believers, have a role to play in that.
Yep.
And it's not for us to win the battle. It's not for us to win the war. It's not for us to, I think sometimes maybe even when it comes to these kind of spiritual things, we take too much credit, take too much blame.
Oh, yep.
And really, it is the Lord, but we do have a role to play. And I think that's like walking away from that message. I think that's a really good like kind of framework. It's like, okay, like, again, I think you didn't put up what's the phrase? Put up borders.
The wall? Are you trying to get political, George?
No, there's like a whole thing where it's like there's like state lines and then there's like national borders or whatever.
I got that,
but basically, like not making it a descriptive thing, a prescriptive thing for everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the prescriptive part is it's real.
Yep.
There's a demonic agenda. We need to be aware of that.
Yes.
And then the descriptive, which is like, hey, it can be different for each person. Is okay. Well, how has God called you to to be a part of that? Again, I think there are difference there, and I think that's where it's good. Again, like I said, reading books and asking for, having other people in your life that can have wisdom and discernment and can speak into that. But yeah, I think with these big topics, people want you to be like, well, tell everybody to do this or tell everyone to not do this.
Well, especially if that's their bent, right? And like you talked about, there's the yellows. You have to hold that tension.
Yes.
Of like, let's go hunt demons and let's go.
Right. Keep our eyes focused on Jesus.
Or whatever the case may be. I think our background has a lot to do with that, or the discovering of it has a lot to do with it. I like a couple things I want to cover. Make sure we cover. We don't have to cover this one right now because I want to jump into not church history, but personal histories, stories, and then I want to jump into when is it a demon? When is it not a demon? Because I think that's the thing where we mess up a lot is like we'll call something demonic that's not.
Right.
And I mean like it might appear demonic, but it's like, no, I'm for sure oppressed. It's like, no.
Right.
You just don't have any discipline in your life or whatever it might be.
Sure.
Right? So I do want to cover that because that is, if it is demonic, it's defeated. If it's cast out, it's gone.
Right.
You want to make sure you clean house because otherwise the stuff will come back.
Yeah.
If it's a stronghold, then maybe we are kind of going into it anyways right now. But if it's a stronghold, it's something that we might need to figure out how to weaken in our lives and get stronger there by spiritual disciplines and practices.
Yeah.
So like if you come to me and you say like, man, I've got this addiction, and I think it's demonic, and we pray, nothing happens. It's like, okay, well, this just might be a stronghold, bro. This might be you fasting, praying, accountability.
Would you think that's a synonym for? Because again, not to keep going, but like I just taught about this at young adults. Like I think there's like there's like demonic things, right? There's demons.
Yeah.
And then I would also say I think there's things where it's like, hey, this is a spirit in your like this. Like there are spirits of certain kind of behaviors or not, right? So you can say like this person has a divisive spirit in their life.
Yep.
Would you say that that's kind of similar? It's like a stronghold.
Yeah, I'd say so for sure.
Like hey, like maybe the lust in your life it's not a demon. But man, that's a stronghold in your life that you're going to have to wrestle with for probably the majority of your life. And that's a stronghold. There might even be, maybe even your family, you've seen a spiritual, there's been a spirit of lust and maybe, sexual perversion or whatever the case might be. We see that a lot with, maybe even like alcohol and certain addictions. Like, would you classify those as the same or like, or is it
so this, right? No, I'd classify it. I'd classify that very similarly. I would say it's like, imagine the demonic's like an algorithm. And, the more that you give into that spirit of lust, the more it's going to come up on your feed, quote unquote.
Absolutely.
Like it's going to like come to the back of your mind. It's just going to constantly be there. So it might not be something that's like inhabiting you, because then we can get into the whole, like, can a Christian be possessed or are they open? Like what? Well, we can talk about that later. But it can be something that you just keep giving. Like you just view it a little too much in the back of your mind. So it comes up again, whether that's addictions, anger, divisiveness. Yeah. Like there's something about you that just likes to cause friction and divide. The gossip, like it's not like you have a spirit of gossip that's, the demon of gossip is on you. It's the spirit of gossip just keeps going, hey, that felt good to know that info, didn't it?
Right.
Didn't it feel good to say that? Yeah. Did you see the look on their face when you told them about so and so? And and all gossip really is like failure porn. People just love to see people go through stuff and hurt or whatnot. So we like to talk about it. And there's a release of dopamine in gossip. It's really weird. So I think on that end, I think there's two. It's crazy because then we get into the mental health, things. And are people taking medication when it's really demonic? Again, if it's a demon, it's gone. Right? If it's a stronghold, like maybe you got to work through some stuff. But there's also the possibility to look into it's, and I just mean this across the board, whatever it is, to look into the possibility of your hormone levels are off. You need to eat better. Like it's not like you've got a spirit of depression. Sleep 8 hours. You need to sleep 8 hours. You're not taking care of yourself. You're, or maybe there is a chemical imbalance in your brain and you do need medications for certain things. Like there's a variance within there.
Totally.
And that's where it's like sleep, diet, and medications or supplements can sometimes deliver you, if from that standpoint. So, because I think we can also hyper spiritualize, and and you're like,
absolutely.
I mean, I would think about. I was just when your wife dropped your kids off today. I just love your boys, dude. They're so rad.
I love them.
Zion was reading to me, and he's just such a rad kid. And of course, Isaiah. When we're getting ready to leave, and I peek around the corner, he's in the kitchen in the snack cabinet, bro. He's like, I busted him. He's got this thing in his hand. Oh, anyways, but I remember like when you guys had two, and they were young, and you guys weren't sleeping well. Yeah. Right. And so like, there's times where you thought you were crazy. Yes. As all parents do. Yeah. You don't at that point go like, man, Satan's really messing with us. Right. Where we got the demon of such and such in our house. It's like, well, you got a couple demons in your house.
Yeah.
And they're not letting you sleep.
We know their names. Yeah.
You know their names. You cast them out.
Yeah.
No, but that's like, okay.
Yeah.
You have to understand where you're at in life.
Totally.
You know, and most people don't talk about that from like because we are a temple, we're the body, we need to take care of ourselves. People don't talk about for like men, you know, like the highest suicide rate in men is, I think, in their 40s. And that's because typically what takes place is all of their hormones get out of whack. Their testosterone drops and they get really depressed and they don't know why.
Yeah.
They have no drive for anything anymore and they just want to give up. Or, you know, with women and menopause, and like we're not talking about those things. So we can take those, if you're in a hyper spiritual church,
right,
and over spiritualize those things. Yeah. Where it's like, I mean, yes, we do need to pray more. All of us need to pray more. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that that's the answer to whatever issue. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So,
yeah.
So I think all that stuff is super important.
I grew up in an age where everything was like a Jezebel spirit.
Oh, you know what I mean? Bro.
It's like, oh, she's wearing a skirt. Jezebel spirit. And you're like, dude, okay. I get it. But like, it's a lot, you know? And yeah, there is a tendency, I think, to...
We've mislabeled things.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Or you know, kind of see your own bent or you know, kind of you have different background that kind of informs or influences. Yeah. You know how, you know, what you say, how you speak about certain people. And
what was your? Because I mean, I've had some experience with deliverance and demonic and stuff, and then like not for a long time. And I'm not Mr. Deliverance guy. I mean, I'll pray. I've prayed for people to be delivered, seen crazy stuff, all of it. Yeah. But like, what was your church background? Did it happen? Was it around?
Yeah, it definitely happened. And my dad really was into it. Yeah. My dad was really, you know, my dad was really into deliverance ministry and you know, my dad would be the type of person where just like we'd be on the street somewhere and he'd be like, "Yeah, God told me to pray for you, and like you have this." Like, you know, he would like, bro. Just, you know, and so yeah, my dad just had that kind of reputation kind of amongst, and I think that was something he was really about, and he was really intentional to expose at least me to that a lot. And I think for me at a young age, it actually was kind of a turn off. Yeah. So I was like, this is like wild, bro. Like, I'm like, you want me to go pray for this person you think is demon possessed? Like, I don't think so. Like, I'm cool. And so, but I've seen things. I mean, I've certainly seen things with my own eyes. That's like, I don't know, man. It's really hard to explain any other way besides. Like, you know what I mean? You know, there's people in our like family sphere of like, oh yeah, like your dad prayed the demon out of my son. Yeah. You know, and like they fully believe that, and like that's like, you know, why they're so close. And so I think for me actually it was kind of interesting being exposed to that so early, because I kind of had to work through it from like a I don't want to say traumatic experiences. It wasn't traumatic. Like, it wasn't like, you know, like, it wasn't like anything gnarly happened, but it was just kind of like, it was just a lot. I think it was, for me as a young child, it was just a lot to have to process through. And so I think for me, it kind of became a thing of like, I almost became resistant towards it, because I was like, not because I didn't believe, but it was just kind of an expectation. Sure. Especially for my dad. It was a kind of expectation of like, well, this is just, you know, like, that's what we do. You have faith. This is what you do. You can cast out demons. And I was like, oh, all right. You know? But yeah, dude, I've seen all kind of wild things I've been exposed to wild things that, you know, and I think that's what's interesting about a lot of this stuff is you're supposed to have some type of like explanation for everything. And it's like, even the scripture, like there's a lot of things that it just happens. Like, you know, like, again, just from like a filmmaker, like just kind of visual perspective. Like, I wonder what it was like. You're sitting out there you're sitting out there and Jesus comes through in town and there's this dude that's been wild. Yeah. And Jesus prays this prayer and all of a sudden hundreds of pigs jump off a cliff. Yep. You have to explain
Yeah,
that. Like, you know what I mean?
exactly,
Like,
yeah.
we have the perspective of the text
Yeah.
to be able to, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, speaking of that. But I wonder if you're there and you're going, yeah, Jesus cast out demons in the pigs.
In
And
the
someone's
pigs.
like, he did what?
Yeah. And,
You know what I mean?
and the pigs all drowned.
And all the pigs jump off the cliff and drown. And so.
And what about that pig farmer? He's like, he's like, being a pay me back?
It's my whole harvest right there.
What
the whole
the heck?
season's gone. You know?
Man. Yeah.
And so I think, like, I think there's just an element of trust and just kind of just trust you have to give over to the Lord and some of the stuff you go again. Okay, you're what is clear is what our response is to be, that there is there is the world, there's a demonic agenda, and I'm pray, fasting, be in our word, and I'm gonna be obedient to pray and to do these different things. I don't know. Like, I think you said this on Thursday night. I don't know if you said all the other ones. I think you did, but like, it's not a formula.
Right. There's
like,
no
we have
formula.
to pretend like there's this formula, and somebody's gonna sell you a book on, like, if you do this, it's like, you know what? There's not a formula. Our response is to trust the Lord and to do these things, be obedient,
right? And
then the Lord does the work.
Yeah.
And so I think, again, it's for me at a young age, I didn't understand that, and so to me it was like this formulaic thing, and I was like, this doesn't make sense to me,
Well, and we have, like, you look at a lot of modern day deliverance, there's like the formula. Well, you have to say these things, renounce these things, and And I'm not saying that doesn't work. It does. We've seen it work. But but if you look at Jesus at one time, like, he cast them into demons, cast the demons into pigs. It's like, where's the pigs at? Well, we don't have any pigs here. Shoot, give us your dog.
Yeah.
Or it's so you see that demon
the
just
same way.
cast the demon out and it goes.
Right.
You see, like, in the synagogue the first time, you see Paul turns around and casts the demon out of the woman just by, like, get out of her. You know? You see that after being annoyed for a few days, right? Then you see his handkerchiefs. Paul's handkerchiefs are evil spirits are leaving people when they touch. Like, there's,
and then again, you see his disciples try and do it,
and they can't,
and they fail, and so it's like, I think that, like, I think we have to give grace for people, like, even with today, that stuff is there is an element of trust there that's like, okay, again, I'm trusting that what the Lord says in His Word, but this is still an element that's like, it's not always super clear. It's not always laid out in a way that's like, formulaic, and that's okay. Like, that's okay.
Man, for sure. And so the church that I was in, again, I didn't get saved till I was older, so I don't have any, like, weird stories with my dad trying to cast demons out and stuff, but or going around doing it. But the church I got saved in, or the church, I didn't get saved in that church, but the church I really started to, like, dig into, it was very, it was a holiness movement, meaning, like, the Holy Spirit is real, but we're not going to mess with it type thing. But then they had an encounter with the Holy Spirit, and then we got real charismatic real quick. And we started to see, like, we would see deliverance stuff happen where, like, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, somebody's up front and they're just vomiting.
Yeah.
And, the're being basically, like, what's going on? Well, being delivered. I've seen some stuff. So then there's other times where, like, in Bible college, when you really start, it's like, the closer you get to the Lord, the more, like, it kind of draws out the dross, like the refiner's fire. Right. And there would be people that would, like, they would get delivered, burst every blood vessel in their face. Like, as it's like, when it talks about the demons shrieked and convulsed them, like, that's like real. So that's like I have pictures of it in my head. I've seen grown men get thrown across a room by someone. You're like, where did you, like, get that strength? Right. I've seen too, like, this one time it was our youth ministry. And he's also got wild stories about deliverance stuff, is Benny Perez. Like, people coming after him with, like to stab him, like, wild stuff, bro, with people that were possessed. But this one story of this girl that was coming to our youth ministry, and, like, she would be so sweet at times, and then it would flip. And while I would preach, she would tear at her arms. Oof. And then this one night, she totally, like, freaked out, ran, hid under a table, punched one of my girl leaders in the face, like was just wild. And we were like praying for her to try to deliver, and we just couldn't. So we actually took her, like they took her to the hospital tonight because I'm like, legalities, y'all.
Right.
And so I talked with her mom and just like, hey, what's going on here? We're trying to pray. She's like, I'm really worried about her. She goes, she hasn't been the same since. And she talked about a night where her and all her friends played with the Ouija board. And I mean, you think like, no big deal. But like, I've seen it. And so myself, our lead pastor at that time, and another pastor all sat down to meet with her. And literally watched her eyes glaze over. And it was one of those ones where it's like, how come we couldn't cast that out, Jesus? It was like it was a different level, than what we'd done. And like I said, man, we'd seen some stuff, bro.
Right.
Because on the other end, I'd prayed with students. This one girl, who it's so awesome to be a youth pastor 20 years later, and see like what took place in their life, and she still really loves the Lord, follows the Lord. And we were on a missions trip. She started to manifest like during a time of prayer and worship. Just boom, just quick, just prayed for her, and then different person from then on out. Completely different.
Right.
Another time, this one's wild, dude. I don't know if this is just story time or whatnot. And she actually might even be listening. She engages with our stuff, but I won't name her. But we were in Santa Cruz. Remember, we used to do summer tours for.
Yeah.
This was a summer tour for this other ministry that I was a part of up in Washington. And we came down. We were in Santa Cruz, and we were out doing street ministry. Now, Santa Cruz is a demonic hotbed.
Right.
It is like there's the satanic church is there. It's crazy. And anyways, there's all these different things in the hills, blah, blah, blah. But we would go down there and we'd worship on street corners, and we'd like minister to people. Yeah. And there would be witches that would come around and start doing like these like dances with these like swinging ball things and stuff. And like just they would try to surround us, and we just worship louder. And I mean, we saw, it was nuts. But when I sent them out, like in groups to go evangelize or pray for people, and all of a sudden I get this, hey, Jeff, you got to get over here real quick. So-and-so's like not good. So I run over, and she was a little blonde girl. She was in her 20s, like early 20s, I think at that time. 5 foot nothing. Like smaller than your wife. And she's on the ground, face down, slamming her feet into the ground. Like bam, bam, bam. And she's just like screaming. And so I tell a couple of guys, I go get the SUV. And so from the standpoint, if you're talking about like looking at it from a movie standpoint with no explanation, this looks like a kidnapping. Right. This looks really bad. So it's like, this girl's screaming. We have an SUV roll up. We throw her in the back. Yeah. And then just go. Right. I mean, it was like, I'm surprised we didn't get pulled over.
Right, for sure.
But so we're driving around. I'm in. I think I'm in the front seat. Another guy's in the back seat, and then the other guy, the driver, and I'm like, all right, this is obviously demonic, right? Because she would come in and out, and I was like, who are you? And the demon said, I'm vanity and materialism, or something like that. Yeah. And we prayed. Yeah. She got delivered. Yeah. And like came to. Yeah. And was like, her feet were all bloody. It was wild. So we took her back to the church we were staying at, cleaned her up. And so it's like, you can't tell me that. Right. That wasn't real. Totally. Like those experiences are pretty wild. But also at the same time, you can't always trust your experiences. But stuff like that, you're like, yeah. Right. That's where it was. So that was really interesting. So I've seen the gamut, man. I've seen man can't get it delivered to gone like that to massive prayer to throwing somebody in the back of a car driving around Santa Cruz and just praying for deliverance.
I want to hit something that I think really good. You hit in your message and you kind of alluded to it there as well in one of your stories, but Talk a little bit about you in the message. You talked about being aware of from a parent's perspective, or just in general, like what your kids listen to, what you're watching, what you're consuming, right? Even if you're not a parent, but for your own self, what you're consuming. And I think there's this very interesting kind of dichotomy of I'll use my self experience. Like I grew up again because my parents were super hyper, all about the stuff, and so I grew up in an era where it was like, "Hey man, you're not allowed to watch Harry Potter because that's demonic." Right. Or I couldn't watch Pokemon because that was demonic. I couldn't watch anything. Everything I couldn't watch Scooby Doo. I was like watching that at home, like for sure. I was watching it late at night.
It's never a ghost, dude. It's always Mr. Wilbur, what his name is. Yeah.
Right. And so there is that kind of side where everything's demonic.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of stuff is born out of it's fear, but I think it's born out of being careful of what your kids or, what you're exposing yourself to. Right. And then there's kind of another side where it's just like whatever, you can play with crystals, you can play with the Ouija board and it's no big deal.
No biggie. Right.
How would you, what would you say is kind of a healthy medium of like you said, being aware of what you're consuming, what you're exposing yourself, who you're hanging around, but also, maybe not, you're not living in we're not given the spirit of fear,
sure,
right?
Exactly,
we don't want to live in fear. We don't want to, become these recluses that never do anything because it might be a demon,
Exactly. That's a great question, and I think that it's interesting and it's a delicate balance. It's hard. It takes a lot of discernment. I think, I can only also go off of like my experience.
Sure.
So when I got saved, it was the era of like everything secular is bad. So the church was trying to copy everything secular to make it like, okay. So don't listen to this music. Like don't listen to Pearl Jam, listen to Third Day. And you're like, not the same.
Yeah.
Don't listen to Eminem, listen to the Grits, whatever it might be. And you're like, oh, okay. And I remember, basically throwing out my whole CD collection. And I think for a time that was actually good for me because it got me like just hyper focused on the Lord.
Right.
And a lot of that stuff, kind of what we talked about today, the burning of the scrolls, it brought me back to places too soon in my Christian infancy that would bring me back to wanting to do those things again.
Right.
So I led a real roller coaster life for a while until I was like, I'm just getting rid of all of it.
Yeah.
Because I know if that I listen to that album, I'm going to want to go, do the things I used to, whatever it might be, right? So I think that's just personally for us as adults, us to be aware of what draws us back to places we shouldn't go, what draws us back to sin, and then being aware of that. Media has gone so wild in the last bit. But then I don't know, because at the same time you look at 1985, there's the movie Weird Science where these two 15-year-old boys made an adult woman, and in the movie she makes out with him. It's like, that was probably inappropriate.
For sure. Totally.
80s were kind of different. But when it comes to one, you don't want to teach your kids to be paranoid about everything,
right?
But I do think that we should shelter. There's the idea that if strict parents create sneaky kids, and I don't always think that's the case.
I don't know if
because I didn't have strict parents, but I was also really sneaky.
Yeah,
totally. And I've seen people that are really strict parents, and their kids are really good. So, as adult children, not like as 5-year-olds, because you can. Anyways, we went from a place of like the church we're at, hyper charismatic, casting out demons. So for me, I was even like, my kids are never going to read that. They're never going to read Harry Potter. They're never going to, and honestly, what was weird is that I remember when Harry Potter came out, I was doing before and after school childcare, and the amount of interest in witchcraft that actually arose from these kids was a little bit scary.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, I remember at that time going like, there's no way, or my kids aren't going to listen to this type of music. It's terrible. And then I think because I was so far on that pendulum, I swung to the other side,
right?
Where I was like, whatever.
Yeah.
All these scary movies are not real. Okay, it's what all their friends are listening to. Totally. It's fine. And not again. I think it was for me, unfortunately, is like it was a rebellion against feeling like oppressed
Yeah, totally.
culturally
Totally.
by my old church.
Right.
And so I was like, look, my kids, like, they know that's not real.
Yeah.
They're around, Aaron and I all the time. We love the Lord. We go to church. We do these things. They're going to be fine. And, man, if I could go back and do it again, I would have sheltered them from a lot more. And especially because today media is way more influential than we realize. And I just don't mean like shows. I mean like TikTok.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I was just talking to a new parent the other day that said they had to get off TikTok because it was making them paranoid about their kid, their baby. And,
Wow.
because you get those algorithms.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you start
yeah.
doing that stuff. So like understanding like it's not innocent.
Yeah.
Snapchat isn't innocent. And I've heard parents say, well, that's how they communicate for this particular class they're in or whatever. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like there are certain things you just should not do. I'd keep kids off of social media as long as you can. Our brains can't, I talked about this either in a message or in one of our we've had more times. Like we this is the most like God we've ever been. We know too much.
Right.
And we weren't meant to. We can't handle this.
Yeah.
So now put that on a 13 or 14-year-old brain that sees it every day anyways, and it's being fed to them constantly, different woke agendas and whatnot.
Yeah.
And who are they going to start to believe?
Right.
And I do think though, like I do think there are certain things that definitely like open you up to the possibility of whatever's out there.
Yeah.
Sexually immorality, sexual more like I remember watching. I remember talking. This is a big eye opener for me. Who's one of my interns in youth ministry in the early 2000s, and she talked about why she decided to become sexually promiscuous, and it's because in the reality show, The Real World on MTV, that's what they were doing.
Right.
They were just hooking up.
Yeah.
And that's what looked fun. And I even remember as a kid watching movies of watching people party, and they're all spilling out of the van, pounding beers, and they're like, woo, and I was like, that looks fun.
Right.
And that
Right.
shaped my high school years,
Totally.
So I think all that stuff really does matter, like protecting your children. But I think at the same time, it's not a just keep them from, but what's the replacement for?
That's really good.
So
Yeah.
don't just keep them from something, but replace it with something. As far as replace it with, and I don't mean like,
Pearl Jam.
Bible Man instead of Batman or whatever it is. But
We grew up on a lot of Bible Man in
I
my
bet
house.
you did,
too.
bro. I think it was what Buddy Ames is his name or something. But Willie Ames, whatever. But I think getting like replacing it with, okay, what is the good stuff then, or what is the godly stuff? What is the not just you can't watch this, but hey, instead, let's focus on, or this is the reason why, and explaining it to them, or. But doing so in a way that they don't end up hating their faith because they're like, I couldn't watch anything because everything was a Jezebel spirit, and so therefore I'm not going to try to cast out demons. Right? Like what? And I think that's different for each family, and I think it's different for each kid because each kid is different.
Yeah.
Some kids have no interest in anything. But at one point, like I remember India was my oldest daughter is super smart, and she was reading Tales of the Sixth Grade Nothing or Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And all of a sudden she was like doing something with Isla, and she's like, and then we're going to go to the party tonight. And I was like, oh,
yeah,
she's smart enough to read it, but she's not.
Yeah.
She was like 5,
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want you talking about parties and stuff
for sure.
At that age. So, we dialed some stuff back with her. But then again, we let we let it go.
Yeah.
So now we're at a point in society where, again, I think it's really important that we watch what our kids are watching, know what they're, and try to, help them. There comes a point where you are the commander, you tell them yes or no.
Right.
And then you have to start to kind of coach them and say, is that something you really should be watching?
Yeah.
that's something you
Or
really
like my parents are good, but like here's why I said no.
Yeah.
Right. And again, sometimes even still you're young, you're still like, yeah, well that's dumb. Again,
Right.
all my friends are doing it. That's all I really
Right.
care about. But it's like my mom and my dad, but my mom used to always say, she would say, I'm raising you. She would say, you can raise a child for either 20 minutes or for 20 years.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'm raising you to help make decisions.
Yes.
That like when you're 20, when you're not living at home,
Right.
like you're not just copying what we did,
right?
But you're, the thought process behind that decision,
brilliant.
Making, and again, you can have, and again, I did have rebellious, kind of a rebellious streak of like, nah, I moved out of my parents' house. Yeah, I'm gonna watch Harry Potter now, or whatever. And you're like, and I watched it. And I was like, this movie's not even that great. Sorry,
I'm watching Twilight.
Harry Potter fans, but
yeah,
it's interesting to hear you say that because I feel like in a lot of ways. Now that I have young kids, right, and I'm thinking a lot about that stuff, and again, being a child of never getting to go to the movies and see shows, all different stuff, I was like, when I have kids, I'm gonna let them da. And I feel like, man, over these last couple of years, how much my eyes have been open to like, man, my parents really had, the methodology and the principles, they were there, they were right, and there's still certain things where I'm like, yeah, there's certain shows that I let my kids watch now that I know I can never watch growing up. But there are some things where I'm just like, no, like we just can't.
Right.
And it isn't on guard. It's not a like, well, I'm just gonna let my kids watch whatever and like, they'll figure it out. There is a show. Zion was really into Jurassic Park or dinosaurs, and so he got into Jurassic Park, which is a whole funny thing. 'Cause my wife was like, "There's no way your 5-year-old should be watching Jurassic Park." I'm like, "It's fine, whatever." But then there was an animated show that came on Netflix, and I was like, "Dude, yeah, heck yeah, okay, it's not scary. You can watch the animated show, no problem." And he's watching through the first season, and we get to the last season of, and I'm like kind of loosely watching, not really paying attention, but I'll be in the room working on emails or something, and I just happened to be in the room one day. It's like the last episode of the season, and the end of the thing comes up, and these two girls kiss at the end, and I'm like,
wow, yeah.
This is, and it's like for youth, Y7. And I'm like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
And I had to tell him, I said, hey, buddy, he has no clue,
Sure.
I said, hey, man, we're not going to watch this show anymore.
Yeah.
And again, it's to your point, is it some demonic thing? I don't know. But what I would tell you is I don't want to expose my kids to certain things.
Sure.
And normalize, like one of the things you talked about, normalizing sin.
Yeah.
I think that is demonic.
That is demonic.
And I think to do that to my son at age 5 and 6 is just setting him up for I think that's an open door that I don't want to, again, not because I'm scared of like, well, he saw two girls kissing, is he now going to be gay? It's not that. I just don't want to normalize these things in his life, because if it is like you just normalize, well, of course girls kiss, of course guys kiss, of course this sexuality thing or whatever. There's this big show on Netflix now. It was this Demon Hunter thing. I don't even know what it was about. But I was like, hey man, I just don't want us watching Demon Hunters in this house. Yeah. Like, I get it. It's all over the thing and everyone's cool about it. And okay, whatever. And there's some Instagram people that say, actually, no, it's actually good for Christian kids to watch. Okay. I just don't want to normalize this in the house. Yeah. And I guarantee you there's something else that we can find and watch that is good. Like, I'm going to make sure you find, I want you to watch cool, entertaining things. But there's certain things that I want to be on guard about normalizing, because I think that whether it's a demon or whether it's just a demonic agenda, as a father, like that's my role. And again, like I said, I find it interesting, the things that I was so rebellious against, now as a father, I start to see like, you know what? No, there is a importance of making sure that I guard what gets normalized in this house, guarding what becomes just and that happens, again, that's from what they watch, what they listen to, even some of the friends that they hang out with, and some of the things that I hear, the phrases I hear them say, hey, we don't talk like that, buddy. Yeah. We don't talk like that. I can't let you normalize this type of language in this house, because if you're doing that at 5 and 6, 7, Lord knows what happens when you get to be 20, 25. Oh, yeah. And then, like you said, as they get older, you start to really walk through. It's not just no, but here's why. Yes. And I think, again, from my parents, there were things that they deposited really early that in the moment I didn't really have the maybe brain power to fully process. Yeah. But then you get older and you start to see it. And some of the things now that I see are like, oh, you know what? Yeah. My mom and dad did talk about this. Yeah. And I see it.
You're the probability of Proverbs, raise a child in the way they should go, and when they're older, they won't depart from it.
Right.
But you've had your kind of,
Yeah,
ways
yeah,
and all
for
this stuff,
sure.
but you have to get there. And that's huge. I think it's important for every parent to kind of figure out, especially with each child, because each child's going to have different proclivities and different things like that, to where you just have to kind of watch and be careful. It's not that, like reading a Harry Potter book's going to make you demonized.
Right.
Or like you said, watching a show is going to, change your sexuality. But what it does do, though, is it makes you open a little bit more to it. And as you open yourself more to it, then there is the possibility of one time when somebody's talking about witchcraft and you're like, I'll jump into the spell thing with you. Yeah, let's give it a shot. Or, and if you look at just the increase in different sinful things in media, again, hookup culture is higher than it's ever like. Well, they also say though that Gen Z is not getting married now. That guys have actually an interesting. They're having less sex. They say, but sexual morality is at an all-time high, because they're watching porn all the time.
Right. Okay.
Stuff like that. Right. So but also casual hookup culture is again at an all-time. There was a season in the 80s that kind of stopped because of AIDS scare and all this different stuff. And now it's like, now you got commercials that are like, if you got AIDS, it's okay.
Right.
Take this medication and you can, not infect your partner. It's so weird. But what we've also seen, there's a term for it. And actually this would be great if Ruslan was here, because he knows this. It's like a social contagion. It's because it's out there. When you look at Bill Maher did this thing where he went through, like, in this generation, 2% were homosexual.
Right.
In this generation, 4%, and now it's like 40 or 50% of Gen Z is some sort of LGBTQIA.
Right.
And you're like, and he goes, at this rate, in another 2 more generations, we're all gay.
Right.
And you go, is that because
everyone was oppressed
forever?
Yeah,
we
was
just
keeping
didn't say
secrets.
it?
Yeah.
Or is it because we've grown up watching?
It's been normalized.
Yeah. And I've had conversations with 2 different people. Actually, I know of 2 different people that have. I want to be careful. That basically they were in same-sex relationships. Actually, I know 3 different people, same-sex relationships, that don't identify as gay or as lesbian or whatever. They were like, no, I was just gay for that person. And call me old school, but I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, all right, but no, I don't. I'm not attracted to the same sex, but it was just that one.
Right.
I'm like, oh, and because of everything now, you can normalize that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that, like, again, I don't want to make a stretch out of what the scripture says here,
right?
But I think from, like, Genesis, you can see, we see the serpent in the garden with Eve.
Yeah.
For me, I'll just speak for me how I see. I think there's a pattern to be seen of something that the Lord has established an order for and has clarity on, that the enemy would like to distort and normalize.
Yes.
Of like, oh, did he really say? No, actually.
Yep.
And like it's this it's like this long play.
Yeah.
Of like, I know he said this, but this is actually okay. And the more that he can get you to normalize these things, that's a pattern and a play that he uses. And it's like, if he's deceptive, right? The Bible says that when he speaks, his native tongue is lies, right? Native tongue is deception. He's a father of lies. If you are going to have a demonic agenda, would you not distort and be deceptive around the thing? Again, is it that Harry Potter is demonic in of itself? Okay, you can make the argument it's not.
Sure.
But if you want to entrap someone in witchcraft, would you not use harmless witchcraft to be an open door to something that becomes a point of bondage in your life?
Yeah.
I mean, I would think so, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think where I'm at now, it's not a spirit of fear of all of a sudden, okay, I watch Harry Potter. I'm I'm becoming a witch
sure,
now.
right, yeah.
No, but I also don't want to become so insensitive and so nonchalant about these things that I allow them to influence and become just media that I just become infiltrated in my life.
Yeah.
And especially not for my own life, but then especially for my kids and my family and those around me. So I think that is like that balance again, where I don't want to get too prescriptive for everyone, but I do think there is and you said it, being on guard about what your kids watch, what you consume, and being careful of these areas that normalize sin. What you say, for things that the Lord established an order for, or devalues life,
devalues human life, and
normalizes sin, and then devalues what God is like.
Humanity as far as image and created order.
And so anything that does that normalizes those things or just makes light of those things.
Sure,
I've got to be really careful about how much I allow that into my life, into my spirit.
Yeah,
because that's where I think the enemy does create strongholds.
Oh, for sure.
And I think there's been that pendulum swing of I think for the last little bit, especially. I think there's been that it's all fine,
right?
It's all fine.
Yep.
We can partake and participate in whatever, and it's no big deal.
It's no
big
big
deal. Watch
deal.
whatever.
Hey man, we got the Lord. We got the thing. And it's when we realize this stuff. I think a good, healthy fear of the Lord. Kind of on the second half of the message. Of okay, this stuff is real,
right?
And I mean, they already knew it was real as far as spiritual stuff goes. But them going like, oh, and God is the powerful one. Yahweh, Jesus is not, our scrolls and all that stuff. And then for us being willing to do whatever it takes, even within our kids' lives, kind of back to that parenting thing, but to do whatever it takes to be free, burn the scrolls.
Yeah.
Burn, like for me, for a season, it was get rid of the CDs.
Yeah.
Not that I go back to, like you never want to go back to witchcraft scrolls. I'm just saying, and there's certain things that I just won't, still listen to, but, it's going to cost you. And you know what? It's going to cost your kids too. If you're protecting them, there's going to be sleepovers they don't go to.
That's good.
There's going to be things that they're going to be left out of, and they're going to be really sad and bummed about it. But it's better than to be sad and bummed than to, how many years later still be struggling with porn, because at that, sleepover, some kid pulled out, his dad's laptop or whatever it is, or his own iPad, who knows, and like started showing everyone everything.
Right.
Or
that's so good.
Like whatever that I think it's costly. And it's kind of to my other point of with like, what do we do as a church? Well, we live counterculturally. It is tiring.
Yeah, that's good.
It is, man. It's hard. It's rough to be the parent on the team that says, actually, they're not going to go over there. Well, what do you mean? Sorry. Or if they're over there, I'm over there too. Whatever it might be.
Right.
You don't trust us? You don't no, it's not that I don't trust you. Or maybe, I don't trust you. Whatever it might be.
Right.
That's the stuff. The cultural pressure is real.
That's good.
And I gave into a lot of cultural pressure. Because there's also on that pendulum swing of like, whatever.
Yeah, you want your kids to be able to do everything.
For sure. And then but I remember having them come back sometimes from different people's houses and being like, well, we got to correct this and this and this behavior, because you do not talk to your parents like that.
Right.
I don't care what they do. I don't care what they do.
Yeah.
But it is that thing of it's going to be tough. And there is like, salvation is free, but there's a cost to living for Christ.
Yeah.
There's a cost to raising your kids that way.
I think that's such a good constant reminder for us to have as believers. Is like, I think for a while we've made the Christian faith, again, it's just part of your life and this is part of your everyday thing, and it's cool, but we forget that it is costly and it's meant to be costly, and there is a cost. And again, it doesn't mean that you have to go to the other pendulum where it's like, I'm going to make sure my kids, never see a screen the day in their life. I was like, okay, that's too far.
Right.
But even just living counterculturally, living a life that you're following Jesus, you pick up your cross daily. And as a parent, it does also have an effect and for your kids as well too, to raise them in a godly way. And I think that like even for my own stuff, I mean, I have young kids, but there was such a desire to want to like hold both in hand. Like, well, I'm a Christian parent, but also like the kid, I'm gonna be the cool dad that can let them do whatever, you know? And, there's just a cost. And I think that that's a reminder that I think we need to reiterate often. Is that, it's a cost. And following Jesus, fleeing temptation, resisting sin, living a life holy, it is going to cost you something.
Exactly. It's going to be, and especially again, shout out to parents who are raising kids these days. It's hard because you're having to train them in multiple different areas of life because you don't want them to be like 18 years old and not knowing how to ride a bike type thing, you know, or not knowing how to use a bus system in a city, or like there's these different things where I think we got to be careful of like over sheltering or keeping our kids underly mature and street smart. But at the same time, like teaching them what to avoid, what to stay away from. I think is kind of is part of it.
And even not just from parenting, but just from like a everyday, it's like, oh, hey, whenever I send you those reels, and it's like, yeah, man, I don't find that stuff funny, or I don't enjoy, I don't engage with that stuff, or I'm not gonna go here, clubbing these nights, or I'm not gonna go, or go get sloshed. And so like again, obviously from a parenting standpoint, like it makes a lot of it's clear to point out, but even just for the young adults out there, or the single people, or just maybe your empty nesters, like there is an element of like
when you have to start policing yourself, and again, that's why community is good. Is because you have some accountability within that. It's going to keep you from opening yourself up to things that you really should not. It's if you're going to suit up, like I said, the spiritual armor, that part of that is knowing that you're doing it with other people.
That's good.
So that's a daily thing of putting on that breastplate of righteousness, belt of truth, sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, feet fitted with readiness to the gospel, helmet of salvation, like making sure that daily we're in it. I've never, I have so much respect for our military. I have so much respect for our first responders too, man. The stuff that they see and have to deal with is just wild, unlike on a regular. But for our military, like when you're in war, one of our heads of our safety team here, he's like, we got shot at every day. He goes, if you were going to the bathroom, you would just hope that it was during a time where you weren't about to get mortared. Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy.
He goes, so you can't slip up. You can't,
gotta be on guard.
You got to be on guard all the time. Even a bathroom, you're going to the bathroom, like, all right, I hope I'm in the right spot for a moment, and we don't live like that as Christians, realizing that like we're in a spiritual battle. And again, there's times where things are a little bit more chill and there's times where they're heightened, but I think realizing daily it's about so much more than just this. We want to live good, comfortable, fine lives. And, nothing wrong with it. Have a nice car, have a nice house, all of that. But that our goal isn't comfort. And, our goal is not popularity. And, I think if we've seen anything, and also our goal is not to be private. If we've seen anything through the book of Acts, so much of this stuff was done in public settings. So the idea of we can just be Christians in the church and in our homes doesn't work. It's in the public square. Where they burned the scrolls, the public square. Where did Paul have debates? A lot of times, public square. Where like it was out in society. And so everywhere that we go, the teams your kids play on, the classes you attend, the work where your job, all that stuff, we're believers there always.
That's good. Really good. Well, man, what a deep, fun episode, huh?
Yeah, dude, it's crazy.
That was great.
That flew by.
Where are we going next week?
Next week, as I drink my water with my electrolytes. Next week, so we're finishing Acts 19 next week, and it's the riot breaks out, which is interesting when our whole riots and revivals collection. This is one of those riots we're talking about. And you see, we're going back in a little bit. We talked about the crowd a while ago, but we're going to kind of dive a little bit deeper into the crowd as well. We're going to look at really, it's so interesting that you see these people like get wild. They get nuts. They chant, "Great is Artemis of the Ephesians" for, I think it's 2 to 3 hours. I mean, it might be 3 hours. What?
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it really does parallel, I believe, a lot of what we see today in a crowd and riot mentality. Even to the standpoint, maybe giving too much away, but like it says that they're there and they're shouting, and some didn't even know why they were there. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. But the guy, I think it's Demetrius, he gives this speech, riles people up. It's interesting to look at like the kind of the crowd dynamics and how evil can, and also too then the response of the believer. I mean, it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
So what do we do?
That's awesome.
What do we do in that stand from that mix? So.
Really cool. Hey, I just want to let you guys know, especially with an episode like this, there's a lot of maybe some questions, some things that you guys would like for us to maybe cover a little bit deeper. We want you guys to know 2 things. You guys can leave comments in the comment section. We read all the comments and whatnot. But also maybe if you have a question that you want to ask specifically, maybe it's, you don't want to ask it in public forum. On our website, myrhythmchurch.com, under the media tab is a web page. It says "If I Had More Time."
Oh, great!
And there's a little form there you can submit questions. And I think we're going to try and do maybe like once a month. We're just going to take one. It will be a separate episode, separate video, where we just go through some questions and answer those in that forum. And so if you have questions about this episode or maybe the past episode, or just a question that you would like for us to talk through and answer, we'll go through those on a kind of a monthly basis on a separate YouTube video. But yeah, go on our website, leave a comment. We like to know what you guys are thinking or thoughts, concerns, questions. And we want to hear from you guys and be able to, talk through that stuff together.
Also, too, if we would love your support in all of this.
Yes.
I mean, for us because we want to continue to do more of this, but to do more of this, it's going to take more time, more resources and stuff. And of course, we don't have a Patreon or anything like that, but if you'd love to donate financially, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
You can go to myrhythmchurch.com, give, and just, help me make it happen.
That's right. We'll see you next week on If I Had More Time.